This twin timber is a single flap, single aileron, like basically a 6-channel setup. So Futaba's IZ doesn't offer a specific mix for that. So you get the flap function working first and allocate it to your switch, then select the centre position, which will give you takeoff flap. Some people have the forward position for takeoff, centre is off, and then back towards you is full flap. It's your preference. So for me, I have centre, it's takeoff flap. This is the best way to set them up. Then you put the servo arms on with the flap set to that takeoff position, and then you can just sub-trim it up or down to get the amount of how many degrees you want. Then when you select the flap up position, you just ATV it down so the flap's clean. And when you select full flap, you can ATV it back, or I should say endpoint adjustment with Futaba. You can endpoint it back to whatever position you want. And that's it. Then you can just set up the elevator trim mix. This RV8 is ridiculously overpowered. It's got a 4-flap wing setup, but there's just no need for takeoff flap. A takeoff flap setting really helps unstick this little E-flite Twin Otter. They just haven't quite got the float set up. Once you get into heavily loaded models like this Racer here, or this F100, or even like a 60 or 100cc powered Warbird, then it does improve the takeoff performance. Certainly on the Jet, particularly on rough grass, you can just shorten the takeoff roll by 20 or 30 meters in some cases, so that's worth doing. If you want to do a takeoff flap setting, this is roughly about the amount you normally use on most aircraft. This front coat of XL weighs 2.5 kilos, and the takeoff flap was quite useful when it had nearly an all-up weight of 5 kilos. It had 3 cameras, and also 1.5 kilos of my brother's ashes in it, which I dropped into the sea. This is a bit of a practice run, and the flight went off quite well, but gee, I was nervous, which was surprising. I was just flying off the beach. It was a pretty easy place to operate from. Back to the twin timber. So this first setup is just a basic full flap elevator mix. So I've just selected that. So I've used a free mixer, so I've already set that up. So flap elevator. You go to the second page, I've just set the switch. So there's your master, slave and the switch. So you can see the switch here flicking on and off. Back to there, and I've just set that rate of 12.5. That's how much down elevator it has with about 60 degrees of flap. That's enough for most sort of aircraft. It's a good starting point. You don't know till you fly it anyway. And here's a wide shot. See about 60 degrees of flap, and there's the down trim. That's a basic setup. I will do another setup with like twin elevator, twin flap, with the full mixing with takeoff flap, and also just on flap. A lot of people seem to think using a slider or the dial's a good idea. It's a bad idea. Just go for a 3-position switch. You don't need any more than 2 settings anyway. Cheers.